Players often waste their careers with alcoholism or criminal activities. But have you ever wondered how Jodie Mudd wasted his? Well, it wasn't scandal or bad behavior, just a steady decline in performance that let fans down and dragged his career to rock bottom, eventually forcing him to retire. Mudd's decision to retire from professional golf at just 36 years old really caught a lot of people by surprise, especially considering how successful his career had been up to that point. He was in the prime of his career, winning tournaments, making a name for himself, and doing what seemed like everything right. So when he announced that he was stepping away from the game, it left a lot of fans, analysts, and fellow golfers scratching their heads. The timing seemed odd, to say the least. In his public statements, Mudd mentioned that burnout was one of the main reasons he was walking away. He talked about the pressure of constant travel, the grueling schedule, and the mental toll that professional sports can take on you. It's not always as glamorous as it seems, and he mentioned how he felt like he needed to take a break and focus on his personal life. Spending more time with his family was another reason he gave, noting how the sacrifices made for his career had affected his relationships and quality of life. It's easy to imagine the kind of pressure Mudd was under. Professional athletes deal with more than just their physical performance. They also have to manage their public image, deal with sponsors, handle media scrutiny, and of course, the pressure to constantly perform at the highest level. This retirement wasn't like some others in the sport where an athlete is clearly on the decline or facing a serious injury. Mudd was still playing well, still in the mix during tournaments, and had years ahead of him if he wanted them. His exit raised all kinds of questions about whether he had just hit a wall or if there were other things influencing his decision. When Mudd first burst onto the professional golf scene, it seemed like he was destined for greatness. However, as time went on, things didn't quite pan out the way everyone had hoped. This decline became a major reason behind his early retirement. Mudd got off to a fantastic start with a couple of really big wins that had people talking. The victory at the Players' Championship was particularly impressive, considering how competitive that tournament is, and the Tour Championship win in 1990 was another standout achievement. These wins put him on the map, and there was a lot of excitement about what he could accomplish in the years that followed. It looked like he had a bright future ahead of him, and many expected him to continue rising through the ranks and start piling up more victories. Despite those early successes, Mudd's performance began to plateau. While he didn't exactly fall off the map, he also didn't seem to take the next step that many had expected. The consistency that's needed to be a top-tier golfer just wasn't there, and as a result, he struggled to win more tournaments and keep up with the other top players on the tour. At the same time, it's important to recognize that Mudd's career wasn't a total failure. Even though he didn't rack up as many wins as some of his peers, he still had a solid career and earned the respect of those in the golf world. It's also worth considering the mental and emotional side of being a professional golfer. It's easy to get caught up in the numbers and the victories, but the pressure to perform can take a toll in ways that we don't always see. It seemed that Mudd also lost his desire to play as his performance dipped, because despite being eligible, he took a long time to join the Champions Tour. After he stepped away from professional golf, many people assumed it was just the beginning of a new chapter for him. Given his age and the fact that he had a successful career, it seemed like a natural progression for him to eventually make his way over to the Champions Tour, which is for golfers age 50 and older. After all, so many other players who had retired from the regular tour had made a smooth transition to the senior circuit, continuing to play at a high level and enjoying the more relaxed schedule that came with it. But interestingly, despite being eligible for the Champions Tour for several years, Mudd didn't immediately jump into it. In fact, he stayed away from it for quite some time, which led to even more questions and speculation from fans and commentators alike. This was definitely a bit curious because most golfers, especially those who had as much success as Mudd, tend to take advantage of the opportunity to keep competing in a somewhat less intense environment. But Mudd didn't seem interested at first, and this only fueled the rumors and questions surrounding his decision to leave the professional scene in the first place. Some wondered if he was just burnt out on the game altogether, and the thought of stepping onto another tour, even one with less pressure, just didn't seem appealing to him. Others speculated that there might have been deeper reasons for his reluctance to return to golf. Maybe there were personal issues or something about the sport that had caused him to step away for good. However, in 2010, Mudd surprised everyone by finally making his debut on the Champions Tour. His return to the game was welcomed by many who had been following his career over the years, but it still left people with a lot of questions. Instead of diving headfirst into the tour and competing full-time like many of his peers, Mudd chose to play only a handful of events each year, keeping his schedule light and selective. This limited schedule seemed a little unusual for someone with his history, but it also made sense in some ways. Maybe he just didn't have the same drive to play every week like he did earlier in his career. Or perhaps he just wanted to enjoy golf without all the intense pressure that had come with playing professionally for so many years. Mudd's journey in golf began in his hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, where he was born and raised. From an early age, it was clear that he had a special talent for the game, and his passion for golf led him to attend Georgia Southern University in Statesboro, Georgia. There, he really honed his skills and blossomed into an outstanding amateur golfer. His hard work and determination paid off, and he eventually earned recognition as one of the top amateur players in the country. In 1983, Mudd took a huge step toward his dream of becoming a professional golfer by entering the PGA Tour qualifying school, a tough test that would determine whether or not he could secure a spot on the PGA Tour. It wasn't an easy road, but Mudd succeeded and earned his place among the best in the game. Over the course of his career, Mudd earned 4 victories on the PGA Tour. However, his crowning moment came in 1990. That year, Mudd truly made a name for himself. He had an exceptional season, finishing 5th on the PGA Tour's money list, an impressive achievement that put him among the top players of that time. But the highlight of his year came with 2 major wins at some of the tour's most prestigious non-major events, the Nabisco Championship and the Players' Championship. Winning these tournaments was no small feat, and they cemented Mudd's reputation as one of the tour's top players. As much as 1990 was a high point for Mudd, his performance in major championships also stood out. He had some strong showings at the game's biggest events, with his best finish coming at both the 1987 Masters Tournament and the 1990 Open Championship, where he finished tied for 4th. Despite these successes, Mudd's time on the PGA Tour began to take its toll on him. The grind of constant travel, the pressure to perform, and the demanding nature of professional golf started to wear him down. Eventually, he decided to step away from the PGA Tour altogether, marking the end of an era in his career. He made his debut at the Mississippi Gulf Resort Classic on April 30th, 2010, marking the start of this next chapter in his career. Although Mudd didn't play in many events during his first year on the Champions Tour, he still managed to show he was capable of holding his own. His best finish came at the 2010 Regions Charity Classic, where he finished tied for 20th. In many ways, Mudd's story is one of balancing passion and personal well-being. He had great success on the PGA Tour, but found that the demands of the sport eventually led him to step back. His return to golf on the Champions Tour, though not as frequent as some might have expected, was his way of reconnecting with the game on his own terms. And that's a wrap for today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an update on our future content. We've got plenty more coming your way. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Take care.